Hello and welcome to our next ChangeMaker interview. Today we have with us Sonja Bernhardt from ThoughtWare, an ICT company that has won or been nominated for a number of local, state and national awards. Hello Sonja, and thank you for coming. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your background?
Great. I'm Sonja. I'm happy. I'm actively involved in the IT industry. I run a multi-award-winning software development company, which actually it is important to remember that it's multi-award because, part of the time you go through and you work and you forget about those achievements. We work in the space of governance, risk management and compliance. I have a big passion in the industry, not just about work, but about the talent and skills of people who are in the IT industry. So I also do a lot of volunteer work in that area.
That's fantastic. And obviously that's one of the reasons why we like talking to you. What's your personal motivation to getting up and starting each day and working through it?
Happiness. Seriously, I know that probably sounds, hey, what a weak little answer. But to me, anything that I do at any work or any volunteer or paid employment, to me, my motivation and my end goal is to be happy about what I do and how I do it.
Okay. So the challenge people will say is, how do you keep happy when there's challenges in the day? As a businesswoman, you'd appreciate that not everything goes smoothly every day. So how do you motivate yourself and keep yourself in that state?
Good question, because not everything does go smoothly during the day. In actual fact, that's one of my main things, is that things will always come and hit you from the side and knock you over. And the thing about maintaining that happiness is understanding the reality of what's going on, accepting the facts and those realities, and picking yourself up and moving on. Learning a lesson, but not spending too much time worrying about it, but just get back up and move on again.
Okay, that's really good. Following on from that, it's challenging enough to obviously keep yourself motivated, but keeping that performance, we all have to keep on improving our performance. So what are three things or a couple of things that you do to keep your performance going and to keep it improving?
Every day, when I have my morning shower, think. In that morning shower, whilst it's relaxing and, really, really good, I think about my schedule for the day. What am I doing? What's the ways to manage things if there are issues, or, what I'm up to during that day. What that means is when I hit my work desk, I've got that sorted. I'm clear, I'm good, it's not muddled. I've utilised I actually think it's pretty efficient because it's a bit of kind of downtime really when you're in the shower, so I've utilised that time. Then the other thing that I do is, how many emails hit your desk and how much is the problem? A, I look after the spam, understanding rules and things with spam, but B, I have a lot of filters on my email system so that it's easy for me to identify at a glance down my emails what are the important ones and which ones, if I don't even get to them for a week or two or even a month, it doesn't matter. So I find that combination of pre-sorting and clearing my head, arriving at the office and knowing that I don't have to go through hundreds of rubbish, and that if I am in a rushed period of time, I can hit exactly what I need.
That's brilliant. That really is good.
Thank you. There you go. Tips.
Yes, no, that's really good.
Yeah.
You obviously are motivated, and what I'm hearing is a real passion for life. Where did that passion come from?
Good question, because I've often said, when I die and they cut me open, they'll find something different inside my body and they'll say, oh, that's where her motivation came from. I had a pretty happy childhood, but I think in the end it's philosophy. I think it's pretty much because I am very philosophical. And I've taken a lot of time to understand who I am, what drives me, even what other people perceive of me and why they perceive that out of my actions and mouth and behaviours. And I've taken a lot of time to understand that, so that helps me be comfortable with who I am, and it helps me also understand other people as well. And I think that gives me that good balancing effect.
Yeah, that's really quite interesting. I suppose we're looking, and people will be watching this from a point of view of how do I adapt, how do I become successful. Mm-hmm. Your passion obviously is an ingredient to success, but what would you say are some of the common traits that you've got that make you successful?
Resilience, I think, and particularly in business, I think that ability to just keep going. You know, we hear so many stories about overnight success, and yep, they don't motivate me in any way, they don't inspire me in any way, because I often really question the validity of that kind of thing. The reality of life in whatever you do is it takes a struggle, it takes things, it takes something comes, bang, blows the plan. You've got to be creative and innovative and come up with a new way to do things, or you actually do get completely knocked down. So that ability to bounce back, that resilience, is a trait that I think humankind has. Look at what happens in general events like earthquakes. People bounce back out from that. So I think that's a trait that we as humans have, and some people just need to tap into it a little bit more and use that resilience to get over and above things that may be a problem and move closer to success.
That's really good, and you're right. Overnight success is really a short story for the truth.
Yeah.
When you look at what holds people back, what are some things that you see that hold people back from being successful?
Okay. Now, this might sound like a strange answer, but I think other people's opinions is something that may hold people back from being successful. I think some people, rather than believing in themselves and their idea and what they can do, actually listen too much to naysayers that don't have that passion, that don't have that resilience, that actually think there's an issue there and they might be knocking you down from doing something. So I think maybe other people's opinions may be contributing to that.
And what advice would you give to people that could be caught in that? What's a strategy that you'd suggest that they should work on?
Believe in yourself, Frank. It's real. I know that's a generalisation, but I mean it as a factual thing that but to believe in yourself, you actually have to do that whole philosophy thing I was talking about as well. You have to understand yourself. You have to understand why you've got that idea, why you've got that passion, what you've got to contribute towards it. Then you can stick with that, believe in yourself, have that internal burning fire and passion that lets you strive your way through.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I think if people can recognise that and do something for themselves, that sounds like it's a really good ingredient.
You know, Frank, there's a lot of people today that think that other people are responsible for their success. There's a lot of people that think, oh, woe is me, this happened and that happened, or these regulations are in my way, or these issues. And I think too much of that is happening these days, and there's a good market now for people to go back to saying, no, I've got a great idea, I know what I'm doing, that's what I'm going to. And if I don't succeed, I'll learn my lessons and get up and move on.
And that's a good segue for my next question is, what are some of the important things you need to focus on to be successful in business?
as successful as marketing and promotion and feeling good about your business and all things can be, you can't really continue to be successful if you are not keeping an eye on, in particular, your expenditures out, and if you're not reviewing them and understanding them and able to adjust under various circumstances. Because, things change all the time. Environments change, internally, external, things that you have no control over. So you do need to know and understand. So bottom line, that's one of the things that you certainly do need to keep a good eye on. Another good eye there is the skill and talent of your team around you. It's your delivery of everything that you do in your company is represented by everybody who works with you. So it is important to ensure that culture and the people and the way that you bring those people on board is all focused in a way that works for everybody, And I've got tips on that one later. That one doesn't have to be as generic as work on everybody. I can give you some tips on that one later. So I think those two are pretty important. Yeah,
that's brilliant. Talking about success, you've achieved obviously some really high accolades, and I really appreciate you talking today. What do you think are some of your highest achievements?
Okay, can I split that into three?
Please.
I'll split that into work, public, and personal. Yep. So work, far and away, my highest achievement at work is to be in a position where I can offer work to people that suits what they are looking for. I was a single parent working in a corporate where I had to, sounds exciting, I was flying around over to Asia and back, but what actually happened was I'd come back and I'd be told in 2 days' time you're now going here. Now, I was a single parent of 2 kids. That created a lot of issues. Also, I'm a pretty good organiser, but it created a lot of issues in my life trying to sort things out. So I never want anybody who works for me to have those kind of issues. So the highest success for me is the fact that I'm able to offer roles for people that they can work their entire life around without having those kind of stresses. So that's work. Public, the Medal of the Order of Australia. I probably can't go past that one, Frank. I think that was just like fantastic. It's actually I should have bought it, would have put it on, shown the medal. But you can look me up on the honours board anyway. That from public. I've had a few public things, but that really is something that, well, it will go to my death because it'll be written in my profiles then. Personal, I'm really happy with my family life. I am married for the second time, and it's a delightfully happy marriage that makes such a difference to my life. And I have a beautiful daughter from that marriage, and that achievement of happiness, I don't think you can go past that.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
That's really nice. And I suppose that leads on to life's lessons to me, because you've obviously gone through life, you've had some real challenges, you've had some real successes. What has been one of the most inspiring stories that you've heard from a business perspective? So it's not necessarily about you, but what is something that's maybe given you that hope and that vision that you can keep going?
It is true, and it's interesting when you talk to anybody. The truth is, everybody goes through challenges. I've had health challenges, I've had personal challenges, I've had business challenges, I've had family challenges. All of those things do happen, and that goes back to those other, In terms of inspiring stories, I'll tell you what I don't find inspiring. I don't find inspiring those things that we were talking about earlier about the look at this amazing overnight success. Look at this, those things to me don't seem real. they seem like they've been media coated and, you know, fairy taled around. The most inspiring, any story for me, is one that will bring heartbreak to me when I hear something that's happened and it seems so realistic, and that then that there's been some personal involvement that has turned something around. So I won't give you a specific example, but that gives you an idea of the kinds of stories that inspire me. You know, I'm not inspired by fakery or things that I, in my experience, I'm like, there's no way that could have happened. Whether I'm wrong in that experience or not, doesn't matter. That doesn't inspire me. But what does inspire me is humankind stories of that turnaround.
Yes, that's really quite good. Thank you. What are some key lessons you've learnt in business that, if you were talking to me and I was trying to grow my business, would be some lessons that I'd be able to take on board and maybe not make the same mistakes?
Okay, never forget this one. A deal is not a deal until the money is in the bank. The amount of times that we've thought, yay, that's happening, because people have verbalised it and said it, or even started writing the contracts, and we've celebrated and we've planned around it, and then something has gone wrong. And that's a really hard lesson to learn. But yeah, a deal is not a deal until the money is in the bank. That's my highest lesson. Other kind of business lessons, you don't have to do it all yourself. You know, even if you have the knowledge and skills, or you think you do, or you have the experience, if you've looked after those other issues we're talking about, your team and your talent and your skill, and that them also valuing and appreciating and loving the work that they do, delegation, don't think the quality of something is not as good because somebody else has done it. Maybe the first couple of times in your head it's not, because you envisioned it something different, but you don't have to do it all yourself.
And I think that's a lesson I'm sure, learnt a number of times over. When you delegate, what is one of the attributes that you see as a strong supporter of good delegation?
Great question, because there's a lot involved in that. There's a lot involved in that about people, what you think of people, how you treat people, and what the kind of work actually is. So, to me, our entire philosophy as individuals and also for work is about the individual. It's about valuing that each individual has something unique to contribute. Therefore, when it comes to delegating, my assumption is people are working, particularly in my field, to use their brain. They want to be creative, they want to use their brain, they want to learn, they want to grow, want to do things. So when you're delegating, don't overprescribe. I never overprescribe when I'm delegating. I delegate along the lines of knowing that somebody is a responsible human adult that wants to do something and they want to achieve. So I give broad outline. This is the task, this is the general outcome that we want. You work out how to get there and delegate that way. And that achieves really interesting results. Sometimes out there results, but they in themselves challenge your own boxed idea of what it was that you thought you might have been doing.
That's really quite good. Thank you, Sonja. When I listen to what you've been saying there, what comes to me is some of your past, maybe your upbringing, would have influenced the way you look at people and the way you treat people. So what do you think has led to you approaching people in life in that a certain way?
Okay, I'll give you a funny side story about that, by a roundabout way of response. I'm actually Germanic heritage, and part of that is I'm a time stressor. I'm possibly a little bit over-neurotic about time. I'll never ever be late to a meeting. In actual fact, in my house, my family knows if you're on time, you're late. So it's like, and I've tried to shake that heritage upbringing, and I have personal issues with that. But in work, I've worked really, really hard to shape that, to go the exact opposite, to really broad flexibility about timelines and time frames. Obviously, certain things like, when a tender's due, the door closes, so there are those very distinct ones, but other ones about individuals with work that they've been given to delegate, to do things in between. I let time flexibility, and that's not only linear time, that's also time of, the other thing that we do in my company is, because of those past things that in my own life, is people pick their own hours when they work. If somebody's a night person and they want to work 11 p.m. till, whatever in the morning, they can do that. If somebody's an early bird and they're up, that's like me, especially in summer without daylight saving, if they're up really early, they can work then and through. So I've taken that heritage upbringing of OTT time and worked really hard on it to do the opposite, and that works really well.
Following on from that, you explained how flexible you are with time, and I think that's brilliant. But how do people respect that flexibility that you're giving them?
Frank, that actually goes to the key of that particular issue, because if people don't respect it, they will then abuse it. And it's heartbreaking to offer something so valuable and to have it abused. And that has happened a couple of times. And when I've looked at when that's happened, it's been because there wasn't a full skill and talent fit. The person was only temporarily working there and it wasn't what their focus or their passion was. So generally, the people that work in my company value so much the ability that their whole life can fit together, instead of, and this is going to lead to another possible question there, is everybody today is trying to say, how do you balance work and life, right? And I say, forget the word balance. One, it's a lie and it's never ever going to happen. And two, it introduces guilt for people. And the reason for that is, let's say this is work and let's say that's personal. If you're extra busy at work, what happens to personal? You're not doing enough personal. If you're doing more personal, your work life, so that is dropping. So that concept of balance is assuming that when one's up, the other's down. Wrong. Drop that concept. Instead, consider a whole person. And that's what we do. We consider that you are a responsible, mature adult who loves your work. You're working for whatever your reasons are. And if you get to fit that portfolio, that's what I use instead of the word balance, if you fit that portfolio of your life in, because you have time flexibility to do all that with your bubbles all working together, it contributes to you as a whole person. And everything about you as a whole person contributes to everything you do, whether it's the here or there, but instead it's the here and there.
The question I'd like to ask following on from that is, you have an incredibly good understanding of what you want. How do you get that understanding across to your staff, and how do they see it do they see it in the same way you do?
You have to ask them. I think that they do, because everybody who works for me, with the exception of a couple of outsourced contractors, but let's just talk about the core team. So the core team that works in ThoughtWare all use that time flexibility for various things. Some of them are really actively involved in their schools. Some of them are on their second or subsequent marriages and they have multiple children responsibilities. Some of them are caring for elderly. One of them, who's moved on now because of what he wanted to do, wanted to be a professional golfer. So he spent all day practicing golf and not working. So it's about, I was just about to say, it's about finding people that want to do that, but probably everybody wants to do that. When I think about it now, probably everybody wants to get away from the burden of the, what used to be 9 to 5, but it's now more 7:30 to 7:30. And you must be here and do this for this period of time. Probably everybody wants to get away from that. So I actually think that the way that we work is the way that businesses will work in the future.
That sounds really interesting and good.
Or idealistic. One or the other, but it works for us.
You're in a business that's all about using your brain, and everybody has control of their own brain. So I think I agree with you fully that you can't expect to control people like they're laying the bricks or anything else.
Yep.
What would you say are 2 mistakes that you wouldn't want to make again?
I would never hire a family member again. That might be a funny mistake. Some people work really well together in family things. I actually found I've hired my own children, and I had trouble separating the mother relationship from the work relationship. That wearing different hats I can do for other things, but I just found it as a mother it was too difficult for me to do that. So personally, I wouldn't do that again. And another mistake I wouldn't make is we came out of the box and spent a lot of money on marketing straight away. And if I could do that time again, I would definitely spend the money on marketing, but I wouldn't do it from day one. I would wait until I had reference sites and, happy customer, and then did the marketing. So I wouldn't do my bulk marketing spend straight up. Okay,
so if we were to say what would you do differently, that obviously is one thing you do differently. Do the marketing when you've got a history and a reference set.
That's right. At least one reference site. Yeah.
What else do you think you could do differently if you started again to give a kickstart and do the business?
Yeah. What would I do differently? I would have started earlier, but I couldn't do that. I would have been much more focused. I've chased so many rabbit holes. You can get I can get so enthusiastic about something. And you run around and you network and you meet people and everybody's got something interesting that they're doing and there's this little bit of area where you cross over, so you think, oh, maybe we can work together, maybe we can do things. So in my life, I've gone and I've taken that enthusiasm and I've run down that rabbit hole at a loss of time and a loss of money, but very importantly, loss of hope. And then I had to pick myself back up again. Then I stupidly run down another rabbit hole. So what I would do differently is really understand what my focused end goal for the business is and avoid as much as possible sideline rabbit holes.
Can I interpret it just so the audience and I are sure that we're talking the same thing?
Yeah.
Because you're an incredibly focused person, so from the point of view of focusing on what you want to do, your focus is 100%. I'm hearing that what you're saying is you need to know where the business is coming from and not use a shotgun to find the business, but to actually know exactly what your target is. And if the distractions of potential business are just distractions, you're going to have a mechanism for figuring that out. What's that mechanism?
I don't know, tell me, because I'm the one that's done it too often. But you're right, it is about distractions. And it's about distractions that can excite you and draw you away. And even though you can be focused on this, I think the mechanism is an external consultant to come in and say, work on your business plan, understand what it is that you're supposed to be doing, and drive your eyes back to that. So that mechanism needs to be to review, to stop, review, however you end up doing that, but to understand where are we and why and how does that fit in with, if we were going to go here, why do we have all these branches, you know?
That's very good, that's good. I think that's clarified for me and the audience, that's great. You've said a lot of really good things, and I suppose at this stage it would be a question I'd ask if I was listening is, can you give me some tips that are important in various areas? And one of the things you've been hinting at is leadership. So what are some tips about being a good leader?
I'd probably use something that I mentioned in another response. It doesn't always have to be you. Being a good leader is, look, for myself, ever since primary school, I've been leading. You know, I don't know what particular management book you may be reading at the moment about leadership, whether it's inborn and natural or whether leaders learn. I don't know. And, you know, like all management theory, that will change every 10, 15 years or whatever anyway. So whatever that management theory is, personally, even as young as grade 5 and 4, I was doing things that was leading the whole way through. But what I have learnt from running my own business and a lot of industry involvement is it's good to let other people lead. It's good to try to not be a dictator. It's good to go a little bit more democratic. Obviously sometimes decisions need to be locked, but leadership doesn't always have to come from you. There are ways to draw it out and feed that leadership for other people.
Okay, that's really good. I suppose I'd call part of that getting people more engaged. So how do you...
That's good words.
Thank you. How do you bring those people on? Some of those people will be naturally enthusiastic about taking a leadership role. Other people might have the skills, but they might be quite reticent to do it. So how do you balance that so they all get that opportunity to be more involved?
Okay, there are different sizes and shapes of what leadership can be. You know, you can have leadership on very small, little, specific type of tasks. You can have leadership on projects. Project management is a great way, particularly in our industry, for people to start to get legs, particularly if people have been in a consulting or implementation or a training kind of role, to go into project management that brings leadership. There still is, you know, executive reporting there, but there's, you know, team leadership and things in there. So I think you can with staged kind of approaches. Or you can do what I've done recently, just become unavailable. Just go away on holidays and just appoint somebody that you think, oh, they might do a good job. And that's worked for me twice in the last year, where I've had different people and I've just sort of said, I'm going away, I'm going where I can't get Wi-Fi, so can I leave this in your hands? And one was very nervous and the other was like, sure, and both did very, very well.
Yes, a very interesting approach. How much of a framework do you give them? Do you give them expectations? I'm assuming you just don't throw, I'll say, the baton over the fence equivalently. So you seem to be a person that gives people guidance but also gives them opportunities. So in that ability to say, please take over this role, what is some of the framework behind it?
Okay, really good to talk about because I don't overprescribe. I don't go right down to the nth degree. I like what you said about opportunity, for experience. The good thing we have in this day and age is all of those technology tools. So we have a whole heap of support processes in the business which is all about communication and policies and procedures and tools where knowledge is already captured. So I do just give the broader outline. I do a little bit of a handover report that says, well, these are things I think might come up in this time period and general guidelines around those things, but I don't prescribe within those.
That's really good.
Yeah.
When
Works for me, less work for me. Go away.
Yes, you've definitely got to do what is useful for yourself. Earlier on, you talked about the way you started off your day, and to me that was a very effective approach to getting the day started and hitting the road or the ground running. What other things do you work on to become more effective and efficient?
Those tools, they're very, very, very useful. It is, I hate duplication. I hate touching something. I won't say more than once because sometimes you do have to deal with an item and an issue a couple of times, but I really hate it when I get the feeling, haven't we dealt with this before? Haven't we done this before? So that's why I've introduced, and we do regularly change over our tools too, because technology, as you know, gets so much better. And it's actually worthwhile because the whole process of swapping from one to another, you clean up and sort out, it's a bit like spring cleaning really, and you get that established. So another good way for productivity and efficiency is very much using the right business tools. Don't overuse, don't have a duplication of what you're doing, but make sure you've got a good supporting set of techie tools to help you.
Okay. If you were talking to your staff, or maybe someone came to you for advice, what would you say about how they should look at shaping their future? Because I've heard you talk about, I won't say the work-life balance, but understanding that work and life needs to fit into the way you treat it. What do you think people need to do to really shape their future rather than let it shape them?
Yeah. Understand that only, let's just say it's you. Let's say, okay.
Thank you.
Okay. So, not that you need to shape your future, Frank, but let's just say it's you. I would say only you can shape your future. Don't ask me to shape your future. It's yours, it's your dreams, it's what you want. How you approach that is all about who you are and what you want to do. Therefore, the way is understand yourself. Spend more time now knowing more about yourself. Then you can do it. Don't rely on other people to be shaping your future. It's yours.
It's a really good tip. Thank you. If we move on from tips, I suppose, to what you've learnt, because there's obviously a whole range of experiences about life and business and public. What is a quote that comes to mind that you kind of, I won't say live by, but it's something that reminds you of a way that you could behave or that you approach life?
Oh yeah, Scarlett O'Hara. Tomorrow is another day. And in business, it's very important because anything can happen. Even when you have an incredibly successful, fantastic day, high achieving, everything can totally change tomorrow. If you have a disastrous day, everything can totally change tomorrow. So yeah, if I had one, that's what it would be. It would be tomorrow is another day. Yeah.
Which then brings me, how do you handle that emotional high and low? Because you're right, in business you can be awarded a contract today and then tomorrow they cancel it. So you've got the
and
high
that has happened. I hate that. Go on.
So how do you maintain the highs and lows? Because a lot of times as a leader, as a business owner, you go through those emotions, yet you have to have a stable environment for your workforce, and they don't need to know what's going on.
Yeah.
At that level at least. Brilliant
point. And it can destroy your workforce if you do let those emotions roller coaster. You know, then everybody thinks that it's okay to have roller coaster days and things as well. I'm not saying everybody has to, just be all median, but basically how we handle it is because at the core of our philosophy is about facing reality. We face the reality and we analyse, assess and say, okay, that's what that is, that's why that happened, now this is what we're doing about it. Or, even for highly successful things versus non-successful things, that's what it is, but tomorrow is another day, move on to the next bit. We certainly celebrate, wins, but it is important to manage roller coasters. I probably need to get a little bit better on that myself because I'm the kind of person that wears everything on my face. So I personally, if I did any improvement work with myself, you've highlighted a massive area that I'm consciously aware I need to work on.
I know when I've done a lot of reading and more around the spirituality, they talk about you can be objective versus subjective, but of course the challenge is when you're trying to be objective, it's actually the subject, the person looking at it.
That's
so
correct.
It's a bigger challenge than we
very hard.
both
Yeah.
have. What would you say about external? You talked about you have external people. How important and in what areas do you see external people, as in non-employees, contractors, whatever business?
Outsourcing things, okay. Actually, it's really critical to us. Possibly that's the industry that we're in. We have a core team. We actually only have 6 people in the core team, but then we have another 15 people that we use externally. Combination of contractors, combination of companies that we contract resources from. It's really important to us because we're small, especially the companies we contract resources from. I've got 2 of those and I'm pointing because I'm looking at a map of the world here. So one of these is in Fiji, they do Fiji and the Philippines, and the other one is India. So what's important there as a small company is I don't have to worry about HR issues. And anybody in business knows that HR issues often consume so much of your time that takes away from all that productivity, So I don't have to worry about HR issues. I don't have to worry about staff changeovers because they do all the handovers. So I find outsourcing important in those extent. Our receptionist lives in Fiji, that's our full-time receptionist. But having said that though, it's also critical to keep the right skills onshore in your core team. I don't think you can have everything outsourced. I think you need to have that understanding of that core, really good, solid working team. Then you can tap in. That's how we do it. We love it.
When you're talking about the external people, how do you initially start out working what is the core versus what you can outsource? Is it relative to skill sets? Is it relative to how the teams run?
Okay. In what we do, anybody who touches a client, so anybody who's in a role that needs to interface, talk, visit a client, I make a core team. That sounds funny, having said the receptionist is in Fiji, but the receptionist is just talking on the phone, they don't visit, So for me, in my industry, any of the real, the design work, the real tricky thinking work, I keep core. Any of the fairly instructional kind of work where something's already there, like just a picture of a design, because we only do specs on really complicated pieces of work where you're a little bit more agile in the other areas. That work can be outsourced. I mean, of course, we also outsource the lawyer. We don't have to have an in-house lawyer. We just need good contracts and things. So there's some very definite pieces of work. We outsource marketing. We don't have internal experts in that.
Okay, thank you. What do you see as common mistakes that people make in business?
In business, it's really important to ensure that your business is represented appropriately for media, marketing, promotional purposes. Sometimes I've come across some people that will read media stories about themselves, which is always interesting, I might add, but or a bloated marketing material and actually believe that rather than reality. So by that, what I mean is they go on a glossy vision of what their company is and ignore the fact that maybe they have issues. So they're ignoring the fact that this process isn't working, or they've got duplicated tools, or they're not doing things. So yeah, I think that's a mistake, that you can fall into too much of your own marketing speak instead of looking at what it's really like for everybody that works in the company. So I think that's one mistake.
What's one that you think you'd like not to have made, but it's helped you grow?
So one mistake that we made, and I learnt a lot from, was we engage, because we're in software, we have servers, and we of course hire companies to host our servers and provide that service. So once, because I was swapping around between companies, I engaged somebody that I actually personally knew and his company to look after the server, but I never investigated anything further because I knew the person through socially in industry. I just added that layer of trust to it. A short while later, we completely lost all access to all of our servers. That nightmare of a cloud server service thing. What happened was that person that I had trusted outsourced to somebody else who outsourced to somebody else, and the relationships between all of those parties fell apart, so access was denied. We lost everything. Fortunately, we had a 5 a.m. backup that we had automated to go to one of our own servers, to our tech person, so we had it stored off-site. So that happened on a Friday, years ago. And we just worked frantically all weekend to get everything restored. So our clients only lost the Friday of being able to put data in because we had the 5 a.m. backup. Thank you. And we got that's a disaster story, right? But what I learned from that was even although it looks like that was their mistake, it was actually my mistake because I never business due diligence checked out how that service was going to run. Because I knew the person and I socially trusted the person, I thought everything would be okay. But it could have been an unbelievable disaster if we didn't have that 5 a.m. backup, because we were just completely denied access to anything. But you know what? We learnt that our backup procedures work. And we learnt that our how to restore a server from scratch worked. So those lessons we learned. So that was good because, sometimes you have those things and you don't practice them. Well, this was a real life panic practice. But so the lesson, the mistake there is don't just think because you know somebody in business that you don't have to do the usual business due diligence contract.
That's a really good lesson, thank you. You talked about business plans and other things before, so how important is a business plan to you and how often do you review it? In other words, is it a living document or is it a bit of a bookshelf item?
Bit of both, actually. The entire business was founded by me taking 3 people out of the business to spend 3 months to develop business plans for the whole business. We did that under a structured program where there were coaches and mentors and guides, and we actually won 2 of the 3 awards that were given at the end of that program, which was really, really good. And that's how the software business started, the IMI software part of ThoughtWare. That document itself has never actually been updated, but segments of it we update. So like the marketing bit of it, we have a living marketing activities at the beginning of every year, or occasionally every 6 months, but generally the beginning of every year, and I mean calendar year, not financial year. But that's because you know what it's like, January and February are quiet time, so you've got time to do it. I actually do complete reviews of where are we going in terms of product development, call centre, account management, and overall financials, and those documents are living documents. So the original plan is still as is and hasn't been adjusted because, life changes and things so rapidly. But we do have smaller living documents, and they're really important because it's part of that, where are we going, how can review, how are we going to get there. If you lose sight of all that, you'll end up over there. You might be happy over there, and if you're happy over there, great, because to me, that's my goal, to be happy. But if your business focus is here and everything is about that, you need to do that.
If we take you back to the point when you were talking about chasing rabbit holes, given these living documents, how helpful have they been for you recognising you were going down the rabbit holes?
Remembering I only do that generally once a year. So it tends to, very useful, because they will say, spent, $50,000 chasing this possible opportunity, nothing happened, So then the action is, can that? We won't do that anymore. So we did do last year 6 monthly because there were a few too many of those rabbit holes, and I was recognising that, and that helped me recognise, that in writing. It's amazing. You can think stuff in your head and you can kind of intuitively know things, but when you see it in black and white in front of you, and you go, really? Is that how much we actually spend? Because it's so exciting when you're chasing those things. You don't realise how much you actually spend. So you need to be hit in the face with it, really. Very useful.
Okay, yes, that's, I suppose the question I'd ask following on from that, is there anything that you could see that you put in place to either have a shorter turnover in going down the rabbit hole, in other words, don't go down as far, or is it something that you're looking to educate more of the group so there's a recognition by the group that it is a rabbit hole? Because I'm assuming if it was me, sometimes you think a rabbit hole is a door.
Yeah. Okay. And that's exactly the reason why we've gone down there, because we do think it's an opportunity door, and you hear all that stuff. If you don't take that opportunity, you know, that opportunity might be the one that's going, and that's what drives you, and then, you know, you find out. Spoken like a good consultant, Frank. Do you want to come and talk to us about that? We probably need to remove me. I'm the worst. Having said that though, one of my core team has started us down that pathway on something else that twice already I'm like, this is another one of those, we're going to stop, and then we just keep going a little bit further, and we're just waiting to see what's going to happen with that one. That one might work out, but I don't know the answer to that, aside from part of that whole control the emotional roller coaster business and try to introduce something that will say, instead of getting excited about trying to work out, is that an opportunity door or is it a rabbit hole, analyse it first. Stop. Think about it, analyse it first. That's probably what we need to do.
And it is challenging because especially the IT industry, if you're not being adaptable, you're not being agile, there's a lot of opportunities go out the door.
Exactly.
So it's that balance, yes.
Yep.
Okay, as I suppose the next area I'd like to talk about is how you approach life. A lot of people go into business to become wealthy or to have power or other attributes that can sometimes be seen as external. What does wealth and prosperity mean to you?
Is it okay if I say something external? Okay, I'll try to give two answers on this. My retirement dream is to buy a tropical island and sit back and eat lots of Thai food and drink Australian and New Zealand wine, which means I have to have wealth and prosperity to do that. And that's something my husband and I would just love to do. So it's important to me in that aspect. But my second response to that is, it's all about passion for me. You know, so it's all about that burning fire passion and happiness and you know, we're not a multi-million-dollar business. Probably if I'd been removed from the business, we might be a multi-million-dollar business, you know. If you know, big corporate ran like that, because we could, because the product is you know, enterprise and really, really valuable. And I haven't grown it that large because I value other things. I value this flexibility. I value that I can offer people those jobs that they want to do, that I can have that flexibility as well. So it's a, you know, two-edged sword for me.
When you responded to wealth, what I heard was it's more what it gives you as a lifestyle, not the money itself.
Yeah.
What are some of the other, I suppose, values that you see that are important to you and are probably, from your perspective, things that support people in having a good, healthy lifestyle?
There's such a thing at the moment that people think that money is evil, right? I don't think that money is evil. I don't think that money necessarily corrupts. I think that it is individuals with inappropriate philosophies that, when exposed to money, become corrupt. So therefore I think it's more again about understanding yourself and establishing actually you don't even establish a philosophy, you know, it's who you are and what you do, but it's understanding what that philosophy is and why you behave the way that you do. All of the old term Greek branches of philosophy is still absolutely valid today. So I think that the issue there about people living a more quality, a higher quality life and improve is about knowing what you want and knowing who you are and what it takes to achieve that. Whether that does mean some amount of money, but understand money is not evil. That annoys me so much.
I've always believed that it's a useful tool, but as they say, a poor master.
Yes, yeah. But you see, the master part of it is if within you, your philosophical approach to it allows it to master you.
Correct, yes.
You don't need that to happen.
No.
Yeah.
And if you don't have money, you can't do a lot of things in very supportive ways as well.
Yes, correct. So, I like it. It is a fundamental tool. It's like Wi-Fi. We need it everywhere.
Yes. What personal business mottos or rules do you live by?
Individuals are individuals. And that you would have picked up, it's a thread throughout everything. And that maybe goes against some thinking at the moment that it should be more about the collective. But believing in individuals, it does not negate a collective. It just means the strength. We're all different. What drives us all is so different to everybody else. What we want, what we see, how we perceive, what we look at everything, So I value and respect that everybody is just different. That's one. Another rule that I go by is that previous one about let people be innovative and creative and let them become who they are in a workspace. Don't box people in. At my company, we let people pick their own titles. We even let people find the gaps. And, we just go, okay, we know you're a great person, we know you're productive, you're efficient, you've got these kind of skills, but you just have a look at what we do here and find the kind of work. We know we need someone, but you fill the little gaps that suit you. So that's another one that just lets people be a gap filler too.
Okay. How would you respond in that one? I think about it in a discussion I've had in previous times with other people, where someone comes up and believes they can call themselves a COO when they're really doing another job. So I'm assuming there's some positive feedback, but also some constructive feedback when people try and position themselves unrealistically.
Yes, okay, and we are all about the reality. So,
yes.
And there are people whose, we have a funny saying that people who have a big ego, that's fine as long as it's deserved. and in our world, there are some people that have big egos, and we're happy to brush those egos and promote and encourage those egos if they are achieving. If they are not achieving, it becomes pretty obvious. The main issue there is if they're out publicly saying or doing those things, then you've got a PR company kind of issue to deal with. Fortunately, I've never had to deal with that, so right now I've got no idea how to.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
That's good. So how would you describe success, and what do you think or feel that you've been very successful at?
Okay. That question about success? Success means something different to every person. Some people think that success means wearing designer clothes, and they'll see somebody and they go, oh, they're successful. Some people think success is that money thing, buckets and buckets of money and multi-million dollars. Some people think success is, a title in a job. You can't judge success in other people because your lens that you are using is your lens of success. Only the individuals can judge if they feel they are successful. You know, you can have people that somebody else would look at and think, well, loser. But, you know, that person has done something that to them has been the most highest successful thing that they've ever done, and they are just so delighted about it. So I find that success question, you know, it's a bit like a balance question. Forget it, you know. It's, but how do I know I'm successful? Because internally I'm happy, and I know that, and I feel that, yay, factor. And I think it's only when people have that themselves, I think people just have to stop judging success on your own views of it.
If you're to follow through with that, and I agree, people need to internally recognise their own success. How do you as a business either reward, promote or acknowledge success when it is so individual?
Yeah, okay, and we do that, you know, and we actually do that with our clients too. We of course do go for public recognition of success, so we've got multiple awards, and in fact right now as I sit here today we're a finalist in the National Optus My Business Awards, which is great. We've had lots of industry specific awards and some local awards as well, so we go for that public recognition, but the individuals as well, they have some incredibly successful relationships with clients, and they'll have a successful output days or projects that they've worked on, and the only way to recognise that is to know what each of those people like for success. There's one of my people that just loves to be told, that just loves to be patted on the back, that just loves a message that goes around the company that says, blah, blah, Massive's done this. There's another one of my person that just likes to be given bottles of alcohol. There's another one of my, you know, it's different. And it's about that whole fundamental, who are they, what do they like? So the recognition of the success, some people don't want a letter all around the company. They just want you to say something personally to them. You know, you never know that instinctively. It takes a bit to learn what works.
So can I finish off with this last question, which is, what is the most interesting question anyone has asked you? So if you remember a particular question that kind of stood out to you.
The most interesting question anybody has ever asked me is, what do you regret? And I only have one personal issue that I regret, and even speaking about it now will probably bring tears to my eyes. So, and it's all about when I was advised that I was going to be awarded the Medal of the Order of Australia. There's this set of rules about it. It's got to be kept secret until it's publicly announced. And in that instance, it was Australia Day in 2011 when it was going to be publicly announced. And it basically says, look, we're letting you know, but we don't want you not to tell anybody. My father actually died in that time. I knew I'd cry. Sorry. My father died in that time period, and I so stupidly went by the rule. I didn't even tell him. And I regret that. Sorry. Sorry, Frank, I knew I should have said. Thanks. Sorry. But the lesson from that was, understand the framework of a set of rules. You know, if your father's dying and he can hear you, and you know it'll make a difference, you know, to him. But in my own head, I was like, oh, I'm not allowed to tell anybody. And it was so stupid of me. But sorry, you didn't expect that answer, did you?
No. But I think it's a good lesson for all of us that we can take things as too black and white, where there are always shades of grey. Well, I'd like to thank you very much, Sonja, for being so open and so helpful, and I really appreciate what you've been talking about today, and I know I've picked up a lot of good information, and I'm sure that deep down I've learnt a number of good lessons.
Thank you, Frank. It's been a delight. Thank you so much.